In the early days of 2025, Buckingham Palace wasn't the polished fairy tale people imagined. It felt like a storm trapped inside marble walls. The king had just returned from months of cancer treatment, his steps slower, his hair whiter, but there was still something sharp in his eyes. Cameras captured him smiling faintly, shaking hands, bowing his head to cheering crowd. The headline spoke of recovery, of strength, but behind closed doors, Charles wasn't smiling. He was furious. A single file had landed on his mahogany desk, a stack of papers listing charitable patronages under Queen Camilla's name, 15 in total. The problem? None of them existed in the official archives. They had no approval signatures, no council seals, no trace of authorization. Just money, millions flowing into unknown accounts. Charles read the papers again and again until his hands trembled. 15? He murmured. How did no one notice 15? He slammed his palm on the desk, startling his secretary. He'd spent a lifetime defending the royal name, enduring scandals, whispers, and half-truths, and now this. Betrayal from the person who shared his crown. He called an emergency meeting. Every royal advisor was summoned to the palace that afternoon. The grand dining hall, with its gold chandeliers and velvet curtains, became a courtroom. Charles stood at the head of the table, the report in his hands. "We will audit every fund, every patronage, every transaction," he said. "Not one penny will remain unaccounted for." No one dared to speak. They all knew where this was heading. Across London, at Clarence House, Camilla sat by her window with a cup of tea that had long gone cold. She'd been expecting this. When you play the palace game, you always know when the knives are being drawn. She turned the teacup slowly between her fingers and whispered, "You're late, Charles. You should have checked sooner." She walked to her study, unlocked a hidden drawer, and pulled out a file of her own. Handwritten notes, coded transfers, and names of shell companies spread across Switzerland, Scotland, and the Cayman Islands. It was her secret empire. The 15 patronages weren't random. They were part of a careful network she had built for years while Charles was ill. While the world pitied her, she quietly moved money, polished her image, and tightened her grip on influence. She told herself it was protection. The monarchy was an unstable place. One day the crown could fall, and she didn't intend to fall with it. "I built my safety," she whispered, her voice trembling between pride and fear. But now that safety net had turned into a noose. She grabbed her phone and dialed a number. "James," she said. "We have a problem. The audit's begun. I need everything cleaned up. Start with the intermediary transfers. Delete the data. Move the remaining funds to a new account. Use heavy encryption." On the other end, James, her longtime aide, sounded hesitant. "Ma'am? That's extremely risky." "Do it," she snapped, her tone colder than marble. While James set the digital fire, Camilla prepared her next move. Control the narrative. She had survived worse. Public hate, scandal, humiliation. This was just another crisis, and in the palace, image was everything. If Charles wanted to expose her, she'd turn the public against him first. She called her PR advisor. "Leak that the king's illness is returning," she ordered. "Tell the press I'm standing strong for the monarchy. Make me look indispensable." By nightfall, London tabloids carried headlines screaming, "King Charles's health declines again. Queen Camilla to step up leadership." And just like that, the chessboard had changed. Charles thought he was starting an investigation. Camilla had already started a war. Buckingham Palace was unusually quiet. Behind its thick walls, King Charles sat at his desk, staring at two photographs, one from their wedding day and another from a recent royal event where Camilla smiled beside him. The contrast between those two images said everything. He pressed his thumb against the edge of the wedding picture, then set it face down. "Enough," he muttered, reaching for the secure phone line. "Get me Princess Anne." When Anne arrived that evening, she didn't waste time on pleasantries. She saw the stack of financial documents, the red ink circles, the sealed evidence files. "So it's true," she said flatly. "She's been moving money?" Charles nodded, his jaw tight. 15 patronages, ghost charities, no approval, no oversight. Every sign points to her. Anne crossed her arms, her face unreadable. "Then we do what we've always done. Fix it quietly before the crown burns." But Charles shook his head. "Not this time. I won't bury another scandal." He ordered a covert investigation, one that bypassed palace bureaucracy. The team was small but loyal. 2 trusted financial experts, a retired MI5 operative, and Thomas, his discreet secretary known for his photographic memory. Their mission was to follow the money trail and document everything before Camilla could erase the proof. While the investigation began, Camilla was busy perfecting her performance. She appeared on television the next day, visiting hospitals, shaking hands, and smiling through rehearsed tears. "The king's health has been delicate," she told the BBC interviewer, her voice trembling just enough to sound sincere. "I'm doing my best to ensure stability for our people." Cameras caught her holding back emotion, and viewers across the nation flooded social media with praise. "She's a saint," one headline read. Queen Camilla, Britain's quiet strength. At Windsor, Charles watched the broadcast in silence. The hypocrisy made his chest ache. He reached for his cane and stood, ignoring the pain shooting up his leg. "If she wants the spotlight," he said softly, "I'll give her the stage she deserves." Meanwhile, Tomas was making progress. He had intercepted a call between Camilla and her former financial advisor, Marin, who was hiding abroad. The conversation was brief but damning, Camilla ordering funds to be transferred to a company in Scotland, one that supposedly handled heritage campaigns. Tomas recorded it, then handed the audio to Charles that same night. The king listened quietly, eyes closed, as Camilla's voice filled the room. "Divert the remaining funds. Charles won't last long enough to notice," she said, followed by a cold laugh. When the recording ended, Charles remained still for a long time. Then he whispered, "She wants to replace me." Princess Anne returned the next day, carrying a new file. "We traced the money. The accounts lead to the Heritage Protection Fund. It's a front. Everything connects to her name." She dropped the documents on the table. "You have enough proof to bring down a government, let alone a queen." Charles exhaled deeply, feeling both vindicated and broken. "She stood beside me through every scandal," he said quietly. "Now, she's the scandal." Anne leaned forward, her tone firm. "Then act like the king. Stop mourning what she was and deal with what she's become." That night, Charles drafted a private order, a royal hearing, closed doors, limited witnesses. No media, no leaks, just truth. And far from the palace, Camilla received a letter stamped with the royal seal. She tore it open, her pulse quickening. One look was enough to drain the color from her face. The king had summoned her to Windsor. The rain poured steadily over Windsor Castle as black cars lined the courtyard, headlights slicing through the mist. Inside, the air felt heavy, thick with unspoken judgment. Members of the royal family sat in the council chamber. Princess Anne, Prince William, Kate, and several senior advisors. Every gaze turned toward the door as Queen Camilla entered. Her blue dress shimmered faintly under the chandelier, but her steps betrayed nerves. She met no one's eyes, only the king's. Charles sat at the head of the table, pale but composed, the investigation file before him. "Please, sit," he said, his tone calm but razor sharp. Camilla obeyed, her fingers trembling slightly as she clasped them on her lap. Charles lifted the first page. 15 patronages, he began, all created without authorization, all transferring funds to shell organizations that eventually led to private accounts. "Do you deny this?" Camilla raised her chin. "I managed those funds for royal outreach programs," she said steadily. "You were ill. Someone had to keep the monarchy functioning, Anne interjected, her voice cutting through the silence. "By funneling millions into fake charities?" Camilla's composure cracked. "You have no idea what it's like to hold everything together while the public doubts the crown," she snapped. "I did what was necessary to protect our image. Your image." Charles's expression didn't waver. He pressed a button on the table and the room filled with Camilla's recorded voice. "Divert the remaining funds. Charles won't last long enough to notice." Her laughter echoed against the stone walls, the color drained from her face. "That recording is fabricated," she whispered. The door opened behind her. 2 royal guards stepped aside, revealing Marin, the former advisor she thought she'd silenced. His face was gaunt, his eyes hollow. "I can't live with it anymore," he said softly, stepping forward with trembling hands. The money wasn't for the crown. It was to build her personal fund. She wanted full control of the royal image if the king didn't survive. Camilla's breath hitched. "Marin, you liar!" she shouted, but he held up his phone, displaying emails, transaction logs, and voice notes. Her instructions. The evidence was undeniable. Charles closed the file. "You used my illness as your weapon," he said quietly. "You turned loyalty into leverage." His voice cracked for the first time, but he quickly steadied it. "You will step down from all royal duties effective immediately. You'll leave Buckingham Palace by morning." Camilla's eyes glistened. "You're exiling me? I'm giving you mercy," he replied. "If this reaches Parliament, they'll demand worse." For a long moment, the only sound was the rain tapping against the stained glass windows. Then Camilla stood, her tears falling freely now. "You loved me once, Charles," she said bitterly. "Don't pretend you didn't build this crown with my help." Charles didn't respond. He simply turned to the guards. "See the queen to her car." She hesitated, searching his face for even a flicker of softness. There was none. As the doors closed behind her, Anne exhaled, and William placed a reassuring hand on his father's shoulder. Days later, news broke that Queen Camilla had withdrawn from public life for health reasons. The official statement was gentle, but the truth spread quickly. The media called it the Windsor Purge. At Sandringham, far from the capital, Camilla lived in silence. Each night, she sat by the fire, watching the flames flicker like ghosts of her past. She'd lost the crown, the palace, the man she'd once controlled. In London, King Charles faced the public again. Rain fell over Trafalgar Square as he stood before a memorial, soaked but unflinching. "The monarchy's strength," he said to the crowd, "lies not in titles but in truth." Cameras captured the image, a king, wounded but unbroken. For the first time in years, the people believed him.